Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Preliminary reports seem to indicate that Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano 3 is in early negotiations for either Croke Park in Ireland or Las Vegas right here in the United States. We knew after their second meeting, after their rematch, that there was a chance there would be a trilogy. News of the trilogy will be much to the chagrin of young Skye Nicholson at featherweight, who had aspirations of challenging Amanda for what belts she still holds at featherweight.
How upsetting is it to hear what I just said there about the Amanda Serrano fight probably never happening, right? One of the biggest names in boxing, your weight class, a super fight, right? I mean, that fight does big numbers anywhere and everywhere, depending upon where it's on. How upsetting to know that probably won't happen.
It's frustrating because I feel like I have been very vocal about wanting that fight for a long time. And I can't just keep focusing on Amanda Serrano, but obviously my focus is on the belts and it's on becoming undisputed champion at featherweight and proving that I'm the best featherweight. And I'd much rather be fighting the champion than for a vacant belt. But she hasn't defended the belts for well over a year now. So I think the likely outcome is going to be that I'll probably have to fight for vacant belts to become undisputed, which was not the way I wanted it to be. But at the end of the day, I can only control what I can control. And for whatever reason, Serrano doesn't want to give me that opportunity. Whether she believes she beats me or not, she doesn't want to give me the opportunity to even fight for it. So probably a business decision from her side. And I know that she is coming to the end of her career, and I understand. But I have also been calling for the fight for well over a year. I'm going to say closer to 2 years. So I feel like the fight definitely could have happened, and she has fought lower level opponents than me in that time. So that for me has been quite frustrating, but at the end of the day, I can only control what I can control and just focus on getting the belts and winning.
And that may be the case. If Amanda Serrano is indeed going into a third fight with Katie Taylor, she may end up vacating the remaining titles she holds at featherweight, at which point Skye can challenge for them. But it's really not the same as challenging the champion. And it just is what it is. Amanda Serrano can hardly be faulted for prioritizing a big payday in another Katie Taylor fight when Amanda herself was in the sport before the major promotional outfits took an interest, before there was any money flowing through it, before the big boom in women's boxing. Amanda Serrano was there, so that if she now has the chance to make big money, why wouldn't she? She's already more accomplished than the vast majority of women boxers. At this point, it's about securing the biggest bag so that she can retire from the sport of boxing and live comfortably after boxing. Croke Park would take the trilogy to Katie Taylor's neck of the woods. I don't know how Team Serrano feel about that, though I imagine that's not their preference. That's not what they would prefer. Vegas, Las Vegas, is a more neutral site. More than Croke Park in Ireland. If they are to try to sell us a third installment in a saga where Katie Taylor, at least on paper, is 2-0 against Amanda, I think they need to spice things up a bit, and I think it should be for 12 threes instead of 10 twos like the first two fights were, because Katie Taylor is 2-0 on paper. So there needs to be something different this time out, something that we didn't see in the first two. Now, Katie and her team may have some aversion to a concession like that, boxing for 12 threes instead of 10 twos when they've come out on top in the first two meetings. Why would they acquiesce? Why would they make that concession? Well, an Amanda Serrano trilogy likely pays better than any other fight that is out there, and I reiterate, if you're gonna do this again, if you're gonna do this for a third time, there needs to be something different about this one that we didn't see in the first two. 12 threes. I think the added time in the round and the added time in the fight benefits Amanda Serrano's come-forward slugger style more than Katie Taylor's movement and boxing. Katie Taylor is some years older than Amanda Serrano, and God bless her, she's not getting any younger, so if it does end up being for 12 threes, I think that favors Amanda more than Katie. And so it won't be like the last time where Amanda has to move up from featherweight all the way up to super lightweight and have a interim fight, a fight in between to readjust to that weight class.
Not if they go right into it. They need to get this done quickly.
And so, we could see Katie and Amanda battle it out at least one more time before this year is out.
Men's super middleweight news. Preliminary reports seem to indicate that Canelo may remain with the PBC.
Unified super middleweight champion Canelo Alvarez is set to remain under the PBC banner, according to his manager and trainer, Eddy Reynoso. Alvarez has fought 4 times under the PBC banner, including his last 3 bouts. He is said to be very happy with their business arrangement and his treatment by the company. TGB Promotions has set aside May 3rd at the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas for Canelo's next fight. Possible opponents include, but are not limited to, Jermall Charlo, William Scull, and Christian Mbilli.
That wasn't on my bingo card.
That he would stay over there? I just don't see why he would. Boxing insider Rick Glacier reacted to this preliminary news, stating, "Propaganda, definitely fighting for PBC in May, but Reynoso is making it sound fuzzy going forward. So PBC does that Canelo fight in May. How is PBC going to guarantee Canelo that kind of money to fight Crawford? They can't. The flip side, maybe Canelo uses this as a way of ducking Terrence Crawford?" So a few weeks ago, Canelo Alvarez made headlines for attending the inaugural Ring Magazine Awards, and the news coming out at that time seemed to indicate that he was on the eve of signing a 3-fight deal with Turkey LL Sheikh, where the second fight would be a Terrence Crawford fight, that he'll get out there one more time in May, then fight Crawford in September.
And God only knows who he would fight as the 3rd fight of the deal.
Now what we're hearing is that he's going to stay at the PBC. I don't see why he would. The last 2 fights, they haven't so much as provided him the opponents.
Of what use are they at this point?
Jaime Munguia was provided by Golden Boy. Edgar Berlanga was provided to him by Matchroom.
Doesn't make sense.
Now, who do you actually think wants to see him fight Jermall Charlo? The disheveled Jermall Charlo that just pulled out of a Cornflake Lamana fight. Did he pull out of that fight to get ready for this one?
Jermall Charlo hasn't fought in over a year. He hasn't fought since the Jose Benavidez fight that he won by way of a points decision.
It was in November of 2023. Jermall sat out all of 2024. Who in God's green earth wants to see him fight Canelo in 2025?
Not me.
It's where I draw the line. Now, Christian Mbilli or William Scull, those are more permissible opponent options than Jermall Charlo. No part of me as a boxing fan wants to see Canelo versus another Charlo brother. No.
It's where I draw the line.
Another one of the Charlo brothers. For another $80? No, I don't think so. It's a big part of why I'm wrestling with this preliminary news. Canelo's gotta know nobody wants to see him fight another one of the Charlo brothers after the piss-poor display that Jermell put forward. When you fought him, we're supposed to expect better from Jermall.
Come on.
And if it's not Jermall, you're telling me that Canelo is staying over there at the PBC to fight a top-ranked fighter in Christian Mbilli?
Why is he over there?
I can't wrap my mind around it. What is he getting out of that continued arrangement with the PBC, if it is to continue?
We'll see.
Now, the other 2 options, William Scull, Christian Mbilli, I'm okay with those. Those are 2 very different fights for Canelo, though, where William Scull is going to move and punch and move away from you. Christian Mbilli is going to do the opposite and barrel forward, come towards you. So, with Christian Mbilli, he's going to have to put his counter-punching on display, catching and countering, catching and shooting. You don't have to chase Christian Mbilli. He'll chase you.
He's not hard to find in there. And based on his performance against the one-handed Sergey Didivianchenko in his late 30s, I definitely like Canelo's chances to win that fight.
Guy is persistent and as aggressive as Christian Mbilli. He doesn't know how to take a step backwards, and he's not defensively sound. Offensively, he's very good.
Defensively, he's vulnerable.
Makes for a more interesting fight than a William Scull fight. When it comes to a William Scull fight, you can expect that fight to look like the Jermall Charlo fight, the Caleb Plant fight, to where the guy's going to be circling away the whole night looking to create distance, and Canelo has to walk him down. put pressure on him.
Not the most fan-friendly aesthetic, but that's what you can expect it to look like.
The virtue of fighting William Scull, however, the virtue, as opposed to fighting Christian Mbilli, is it would afford Canelo Alvarez the chance to become a two-time undisputed champion in the super middleweight division. Get back the IBF title, become undisputed again, then go into the Terence Crawford fight with all the marbles. So it can be.
For all the belts.
All three opponent options are unbeaten fighters. Jermall Charlo, Christian Mbilli, and William Scull. All three are unbeaten.
So it looks like one way or another, Canelo Alvarez will be facing yet another unbeaten fighter in May.
Then another in September.
That's some pussy shit. That's some weak shit. Oh, you can't come in this much and shit. Oh, man, get the fuck out of here. It's boxing. You got on the scale, I made the weight, regardless when I come back, ass. Hey, you accepted the fight, let's get in there and fight like me. Simple as that.
That is veteran trainer Brian McIntyre on the subject of rehydration clauses. You see what he said. Terence ain't asking for one.
Some will say, well, he's in no position to ask, but that's not the point.
It's the perspective. Putting those who would rely on this kind of a handicap, these restrictions, in a negative light, like a Gervonta Davis sticking 2 weight clauses on Ryan Garcia, a catch weight and a rehydration clause like the one he stuck on Mario Barrios.
It's very obvious what you're doing. You're trying to handicap your opponent.
So perhaps in some instances, weight stipulations are permissible, though those instances are far and few. Adding an extra layer of spice to a potential Canelo versus Crawford fight, that Team Crawford must really be confident. They must really believe in themselves, that they're not relying on weight stipulations in any way to try and weaken Canelo. They believe they can beat him, and beat him at his weight.
We'll see.
Veteran boxing scribe Rick Glacier stated, "It's interesting seeing all the social media comments about a fight that hasn't even been made yet, but in talks with Canelo looking like he's going to fight Terence Crawford in September. All the talk and hoopla translates to a fight that will be huge, crazy huge, a fight that will cross over to general sports fans. Boxing needs this fight to not only happen, but be the great fight I think it'll be. That will turn general sports fans into boxing fans.
Not just casuals.
Not just huge boxing event watchers. The boxing gods need to unequivocally make this fight happen. The upside is huge." And I agree with Rick. Terence Crawford has his supporters and his fans, and Canelo has his. All the makings of a super fight between two distinguished professionals, two very accomplished fighters.
I don't know what's going to happen in May, but this needs to happen in September.
Kind of fight that will make the American boxing scene stand up and pay attention. I say it all the time. The Americans are less concerned with the Furies and the Usyks and the Bivols and the Beterbeefs. They don't really care about those fighters, but these two?
That'll move the needle.
Big upside for this one, big enough that I think Canelo Alvarez will do it. It's not finalized yet, but I expect that it will be.
Elsewhere in the super middleweight division, Jaime Munguia to train with Eddy Reynoso.
If you can't beat him, join him. That's the move super middleweight contender Jaime Munguia has made as he's handing the coaching keys of his career to Canelo Alvarez's lifelong confidant, Eddy Reynoso. 9 months after losing to the Mexican superstar and 6 weeks after suffering the upset of the year in a shocking knockout loss to Bruno Ceviche.
Sriracha.
Synchronized swimming. Reynoso announced the development on Wednesday, which signals an end, for now, to Munguia's much-desired rematch down the line against Alvarez. Yes, right now, we are working, Reynoso told TV Azteca. We've been working with him for a week. We met with Mr. Fernando Beltran, with Munguia and his dad, to see if we can work with him. And now we're getting to know each other and seeing what he likes to work on and seeing the different points of view. I think we can have a very good partnership. Reynoso also clarified, if Alvarez and Munguia have already crossed paths since the union, no, not yet, said Reynoso. Saul is barely getting started on physical training. Jaime already started to loosen up in the gym and work on some technical things. They haven't run into each other.
Why does that matter?
Because Canelo said some not so nice things after the fight that he basically carried Jaime Munguia, and Jaime didn't like that.
Could be awkward.
Could be much ado about nothing, but they haven't run into each other yet. The head coaching change marks yet another move in the corner for the 28-year-old Munguia, 44-2 with 35 knockouts. Ahead of his 9th-round knockout win against John Ryder last January, Munguia moved on from fellow Tijuana, Mexico native and Hall of Fame fighter turned coach Eric Morales after a 5-year run and instead bestowed training duties to Hall of Fame coach Freddie Roach. And we were starting to see improvements faster than you would expect from a partnership that had just gotten started.
Roach seemed like a good fit, but after the Canelo fight, Jaime went back to Eric.
Likely because Eric doesn't cost you as much money as Freddie costs you. Freddie is a star trainer.
Well, you get what you pay for.
So he loses the Canelo fight, goes back to Eric Morales, citing the need to train in the high-altitude terrain of Big Bear, California, where he previously trained after purchasing the gym once owned by Abel Sanchez, Gennady Golovkin's former coach. Munguia and Morales reunited in September to knock out Eric Bazinian in 10 rounds, but were on the wrong end of the knockout themselves in December. That's when the little-known Frenchman Surace struck lightning in a bottle and landed a one-punch, 6th-round knockout in a fight that he was already knocked down in and losing by a landslide earlier this month. Beltran, Munguia's Mexico-based promoter, told The Ring that a rematch between Munguia and Ceviche was targeted for April 12th in Mexico. As for Reynoso, Munguia is just the latest marquee addition to his stable. Late last year, the Ring and WBO junior welterweight champion Teofimio Lopez also added Reynoso to his team. Over the last 3 fight camps, Reynoso and Alvarez have moved training from San Diego to an isolated area in Truckee, California, a town in Northern California near Lake Tahoe that sits 5,800 feet above sea level.
High altitude.
Will Eddy be as good a fit for Jaime as Freddie? As Freddie was. I feel like they got different philosophies. Freddie's good for an offensively minded fighter that wants to be a better offensively minded fighter.
Whereas Eddy, I think, will place more emphasis on defense and being responsible.
I just hope they don't try to reinvent the wheel with Jaime, because Jaime's a pressure guy through and through. That's what he's good at. And you don't want to try to change him too much from what he is. You have to let him be who he is, just a better version of who he is.
He's a pressure guy. He's not a thinker. He's not a boxer. He's a pressure guy.
Deviate too far off course from what a fighter is used to doing and what he would like to do, and you end up with a fighter that's caught between styles for a number of fights, trying to work things out.
We'll see.
Either way, I have Jaime winning the rematch. I think he's going to knock out Bruno Ceviche, though long term, I question whether or not Eddy Reynoso's philosophy will be the right fit for Jaime Munguia, because what happened in his last fight, that's tantamount to a freak accident.
Stupid shit that happens.
Not something you need to overthink. Jaime's gonna win the rematch.